think?
Sure.
Okay. So, like I say, Caroline, why birds?
Why birds? Well, for a long time, for a long time, I was painting landscapes and seascapes, a lot of them of Greece, which I sort of specialized in, where I used to live with Miriam and Aaron, who's also here, many, many years ago. In 19 and and anyway, so and I love doing those, but I realize that for the most part, when people look at a landscape, unless it's someplace they've really been, you know, they may or may not relate to it really. And so even though I did a lot of beautiful Greek things, you know, I would sell them from time to time, but it's not like, you know, if you lived in Greece, you know, or you knew the place well, it's like, oh yes, it's just how the water looks, fabulous, you know, so anyway, I decided, it occurred to me one day that I needed to, I was wondering, well, what do I look like? What engages people? And the things that really engage people, the imagery that engages people most, I think, is things with eyes, like portraiture. But then if you do portraiture, it's like, you know, why would someone want a painting of some person they don't know hanging on their wall? You know, I mean, sometimes people do, but it's, you know, more often than not, it'd be nice if it was someone you knew. So I was thinking, well, what has eyes that it's not a person? I don't know. And it was only a little bit before that, well, it was a few years before that. Well, I was sitting out in my backyard and I was there by myself with my coffee in the morning, and this bird flies up and lands on the fence right near me. And I said, oh my God, it's a cedar waxwing. And then I said to myself, oh my God, how do I know that's a cedar waxwing? Because I mean, I don't know birds really, but I knew that was a cedar waxwing. And I thought about it, and it occurred to me that when I was a little kid, my mother had this bird book, you know, with the Roger Tory Peterson illustrations of the bird, all little bird paintings, you know. And so, and apparently I looked through that book a lot because I knew what a cedar waxwing was like that. And I knew a lot of other birds too. So, and it was on that day I really started paying attention. And I really started getting into finding out what birds were and being able to name them, you know, and seeing new ones that I hadn't seen before. And that was fabulous. And there was a great moment when Miriam, Anne and I, is a friend of Miriam and I, Anne, who's from England, she's in Wales now, and she was visiting from England, and she and I were walking down the path in Baker Park, right here in Frederick. You know, Miriam's been here too. And we were walking down the path, and she was saying, well, what's this? And I was saying, well, that's a blue jay. And she was, well, that's a cardinal. And then I turned to the creek and I said, what the hell is that? And it was the first time I'd ever seen a yellow-crowned night heron. And it was standing up. It was just, you could have knocked me over with a feather, honest to God. It was just this beautiful big bird standing there that I'd never seen before, lit beautifully, I'll also say. And it was a real thrill, you know? But anyway, so I started getting into birds, and then I thought, well, maybe I should paint one, I don't know. And I painted a little, a kingfisher, that, because I love kingfishers, but they're super elusive. You know, they chatter away, and then you try and get near them and off they go. Oh, it makes me crazy. But I made a little film of one a number of years ago, and I was able to take a still from the film, and I painted from that, and it really turned out well. But anyway, that's how I got into birds. I could keep talking. Do you want to stop me?
No, I have to say that is not the answer that I was expecting, because I was expecting oh my God, I've always loved birds, and, you know, I've known so much, and I've got a list, and, you know, so you are not necessarily a birder by background.
No, I don't have a life list. No.
So it came from the fact that you wanted something with eyes that people could relate to.
And people can engage with. And also birds, I figured out just kind of recently why so many people like birds, because I started painting birds, and the show that I had 2 years ago almost sold out.
Right.
Hi, Tom. Almost, I sold everything except 3 paintings, and 2 paintings, and then I had 3 commissions, so I actually sold more than was in the show. So people love birds. Yes. Why do people love birds? I asked myself. Caroline, I said, why do people love birds? And I answered back thusly. People like birds, I think, because they're so accessible. You can't walk outside without hearing one or seeing one, right? You know, it's like they're all over the place. There's lots of wildlife out there. You know, there are little chipmunks and mice and all kinds of stuff that you never see, but the birds you always see. And so everyone seems to be able to relate to them.
Mhm. Did it
Yeah.
surprise you that you had picked something that people like really loved, and especially that there was a particular population of people who really love birds, like, you know, like can't live without them kind of
I
thing?
can't live it. Well, I didn't. I guess I was a little surprised. Yeah, because I thought, birds. Well, everyone sees birds in their backyard, but there are a lot of people who are really like super serious about it. I'm part of the Maryland Birding Facebook Club and the Frederick Birding Facebook, and all these people, and they're just like, people get, you put a little query out. I just saw this, and you put a picture of what is it, and people will tell you so much stuff. It's great.
Well, that actually leads to my next question. Do you do any research about the birds that you're painting?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And why I do research about the birds is because a lot of painters just paint birds.
Mhm.
And they're lovely, but I really like to add something more. And you'll see in the paintings that we're going through that I like to imbue some more meaning into the painting than just depicting the bird.
Do you feel like when I mean, because I do the same thing with my animal sculptures, do you feel like you are more able to put a personality to the bird, to put the movement into the bird, to understand why the bird is standing the way it is, or is colored the way it is, or whatever? Do you find that helps with how you paint things?
I don't know. I grew up as an actress. I acted professionally when I was young, and I think and so that's probably a lot of the reason why I'm so expressive.
Right.
Is it annoying you yet? Is it? Anyway. So, I probably put a little personality in everything I touch. It's just kind of my nature, I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you sort of answered one of my questions earlier a little bit, but I would like to know more about, do you actually make up your paintings, or do you get the images somewhere? And if so, where do you find all the images of your birds?
A lot of the paintings of the images of the birds that are Maryland birds, I take from photographs myself. Those are the photographic references, and that's what I did for a long time. But then there are, I have a couple of clients who asked me to paint birds that I've never seen in person, and so I don't have pictures of, and so I've had to resort to going to a photo service and having to pay the licensing fee. For the extra, there's a basic licensing fee, and then there's the advanced one. The advanced one enables you to use it as a source image for a painting. So that's what I wind up doing. And what I do is I get the image and I download it, and I always actually wind up adjusting the painting in Photoshop. I push the background back, or I take it out completely and replace it with something else, or I make it much darker and the bird much lighter, so there's more drama to it, or I increase the saturation so it looks like afternoon light instead of midday light, or any number of things.
Right. That's interesting, because I didn't know about that licensing fee. I didn't know that there were 2 different levels of it, and that's really good to know. Do you take commissions on your work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does that work?
How does that work? Well, people get in touch with me and they say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I want a blue-footed booby. And I say, oh my God, I've never seen one. So I have to get a picture and then work from there. Or I had an interesting commission once recently. It's a painting that's not in the show, but I had it in my house, but I couldn't show it yet. It was a commission from an old high school friend of mine, a guy, Dick Hall, who I hadn't seen in years and years and years. And he and I, we know each other again through Facebook. And his wife's birthday was May 10. And her favorite bird is a purple finch. And so I said, he said, how does this commission thing work? I don't know. I'm a plumber. I don't know how this stuff works. I said, well, let's find out more about your wife, you know. And so it turns out that the wife wanted, mused years ago that if she ever had her own little diner, her own little cafe, she'd call it the Purple Finch Cafe. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh, isn't that interesting? So I tried to do a purple finch on a diner cup, you know, with the white cup with the little green, you know, stripe on the top of it that we all know. And I wanted a menu in the back and stuff, and the image transfer thing wasn't working out, so it wound up being something entirely different. I can do a screen share later of that for you, but it really turned out great. But it's very, very custom to her thing. As a matter of fact, it has little order sheets from a local cafe in Frederick around it. You know, the people write their name, and her name, Becca, is on the side of it as if she had ordered from the cafe.
I have it up on Facebook. So let me go ahead and share so that people can see right now. Okay. So here it is at the beginning.
Yeah, a little purple finch.
Nice.
And there it is at the end with the pencil on top.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's so the yeah, see, it has little order slips all the way around it, and it needed something darker on top, and so I just stuck a black pencil on it because, you know, you got to fill out the forms with something, right? You know, so anyway, it turned out really great, and he was very pleased, and that's an example of a small commission. There are other commissions in the show that are very large, like the big pink bird on the poster, which is a rose pelican, which is an enormous bird, and it's a very big painting. It's certainly the biggest bird painting. You know, the client, Caroline, I want it larger than life. And I said, okay. I was terrified. It was terrifying doing that, but I'm really pleased how it turned out.
Well, and actually, I mean, I had another question. I mean, it's not written down here, but if you don't mind, I'll ask, because I know that many of your pieces are quite small. In fact, I happen to have one that is, you know, maybe that big. It's a tufted titmouse.
6 by 12.
Yes, tufted titmouse. I always like that tufted titmouse. Anyway, but but I also know that you have done largers. You've done some larger landscapes and stuff. But you know, what does it take to do a larger bird? When, I mean, is it the same thing, or I mean, obviously it takes more paint, but, you know, do you have to put yourself in a different mindset if you're making a bird that's bigger?
Yes, absolutely. Scale is very important in art. I've learned years ago. And when I start out with an image, even if it's a landscape, if it's anything, I have the image, and the very first thing I think about really is how big should that be? You know, if I can just sort of envision it, you know, it's sometimes, you know, it's a dear little 5 by 7 of something, you know, and sometimes, oh my God, that has to be big or else no one's going to really appreciate, you know, the grandeur of it, or, you know, whatever it is. So scale is important, but with birds, most of the birds that I did at the beginning are little songbirds, you know, and so almost everything was like a 5 by 7-ish kind of size. And it seemed weird to do a bird bigger than it actually is. That just sort of seemed wrong to me. Obviously, I've gotten over that. Look at the crow in the background, because that's, you know.
Sure. Sure. Well, why don't you pull that up and what I
this is me for scale.
Now I can also, because I'm on your Facebook page, I can also show it as it was being done, I think. So to show, yes, exactly.
I added the coat today.
Yeah, that was a blank earlier.
I know. It just got painted today.
Let me just show it in, oops, hello, share screen is useful for this. So there is the actual beginning of it. And this I think is fascinating, because you and I were talking earlier about the fact that you do it like a puzzle, you do it in pieces. So, oops, there's you with the pelican, but there's the beginning of the bird.
Yeah, first I draw it out, and in this particular painting, the halo is in gold acrylic paint.
mm,
Now, if you're using acrylic and oils in the same painting, you have to paint acrylic first, because you can paint oil over acrylic, but you can't do it the other way around, because the drying time of oil will slowly crack the acrylic paint. So that's why I did the halo first. But when a long time ago, when I started painting, I would paint, I would have painted the whole crow being sort of mostly blackish, and then, but without any detail really, and then the whole background being a sort of a grayed back teal, and with suggestions of the trees. I would have built it up like that, and that's how I painted for a long time. But more recently, I've become a confident enough painter that I can try and do a painting on one pass, one layer of color. It just looks fresher that way. You don't get all the muddy stuff of reworking working things too much. And I find the result better that way. Now, there's usually, I have to go back in just about every painting when I'm 95% done. I have to go back and make adjustments. A highlight needs to be a little lighter, a dark part needs to be a little darker, so it's standing out too much. I really try to get the color correct, and it takes a lot of experience with color and a lot of really knowing what you're doing with the color. But I've been painting for years now, so I can pretty much.
Well, I'm also impressed by how fine you can get the lines that, if you are, because it's, sometimes there's that moment when your hand does something that your brain didn't tell it to. So the fact that you can, paint next to something else is pretty amazing. So.
Well, every once in a while, I do have to, get the rubber tip tool out, and have to scrape something off a little bit, or a little Q-tip, but
all right,
there's subtraction as well as addition, so.
So I have one more question before, if you have more stuff that you want to talk about. Is there any bird that you have fallen in love with that has come from a commission that you didn't really know about before, but because you've had to do a commission, you just totally fell in love with it?
Oh, the blue-footed booby.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You gotta love a booby. Who doesn't love a good booby? Come on, come on, come on.
And oh, by the way, there are red-footed boobies, which I've seen in person, but blue-footed ones there's something about that patois blue-footed booby that sounds better. So.
Blue-footed booby.
All right, so that's the end of my question.
Yeah,
so,
I never would have painted that in a million years, but go ahead.
Right, so if you have anything, any go, what did I call it? Your spiel, anything that you want to add to your spiel about your work and that I haven't asked a question about?
Oh gosh, you've been pretty thorough about it. The birds being accessible, the bird show I had before being successful, the way people relate to birds. I think it's pretty much out there now. Thank you. You did a great job with questions.
Oh, good, excellent. Do you want to go ahead and show the?
Sure.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me get the right thing up here. If anybody else has any questions, this is now a good time to start. But we will start off with the rose pelican.
The rose pelican.
Yes.
The rose pelican was a commission from a local woman, and as I said before, she asked for it larger than life, which was terrifying to do. I did have to get the image from an image source, what do I want to say, Virginia? Shutterstock.
Yes, Shutterstock.
And iPhoto. I mean, all those kinds of service, Getty and all those people. And so I had to do an image search, and there are many shots of it, but she really wanted one that was straight on, you know, I mean, and she really loved the texture and the colors in the bill. And so that really had to be front and center. And so that's why it's this long and thin thing to sort of accentuate, that's the part that we're really focusing on. And so this is the one that I found. The whole image, you know, was bigger. It showed I cropped it. So a large percentage of the surface area is that pink. You know, I wanted it to be like an almost overwhelming, like you're getting strangled with a pink feather boa type of effect. Isn't that nice?
I just wanted to show again one more time the size of it, because we had a picture of you with it, as I recall. There we go, so that you can see how big.
Yeah, it's 36 inches high, so right. It's a great big piece.
Right. All right. Gathering.
And the gathering. Yeah, this was a really different one for me. It's very kind of graphic-y rather than trying to be as photorealistic as I often am. The gist behind this is that it's the COVID experience. It's the pandemic that has prevented us all from gathering how we normally gather. And my favorite gathering, one of my favorite gathering things is to be with my friends at art galleries and talk about art. You know, it's like fabulous. Or to have friends over to dinner, you know, and a bunch of us come over and we, you know, all do a potluck thing and we all have a grand old time and it's great. And we can't do that. We haven't been able to do that this last year. So it was very frustrating. So this is, well, you can read what I said here. A crow calls his friends to gather at a spot where there is treasure. This painting was inspired by not being able to gather during the time of COVID. I miss gathering with my friends to look at art. That's the treasure for me. What's your treasure? What do you miss gathering for? Going out with a meal with your friends, getting together with your book club, going to a baseball game together. What do you gather for? But that's the gist behind it. And so the little colorful dots are meant to be very abstract. They're just meant to be sort of, you know, sparkly, ooh, ah, you know, it's, you know, not get specific about what the thing is that you love.
Yeah, and I do like that. It seems like in the last couple of years you have been working more on I mean, you are so confident in how you do the bird. Now you're giving it a different what's the word I want? Placement, you know, so that you are playing with a little bit more abstract, a little bit more storytelling, that kind of thing, yes. Without just a bird.
Absolutely. I am doing a lot. Thank you. I am doing a lot more storytelling, and because I know I can do a good detailed painting of a bird. And how many of those can you do? You know, I just do a, you know, again and again and again. It's like, okay, Caroline, great. You could do detailed paintings of birds. That's fabulous. But, you know, so I really wanted to, you know, explore and get more. Now, this painting is these birds. The main bird was taken from a woman that I've never met. Her name is Lisa Haymaker, and she has a personal relationship with a fish crow. And she's known several fish crows, and they come right up to her. She's in Frederick here somewhere. They you know, come right up to her and eat out of her hand and stuff. And so that crow is from a photo that she took, because I've approached her. I said, I love your crow paintings. Could I use one sometime as source material? And she said, I said, would you like me to pay you a fee or something, or just mention your name or what? And she goes, oh, go ahead and use it. It's fine. You know, whatever photos you want are fine. So this one back here behind me, that's Lisa Haymaker's crow. And this one here is Lisa Haymaker's crow. That crow has been in several ones. It's okay.
Didn't mean to jump you ahead there. Actually, I want to go back to this one because you said there are so many detailed pictures of birds that you can paint, but I also would imagine that there are so many detailed birds on a tree branch that you can paint. So it must be kind of nice to play and figure out.
Move on.
Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of tree branch,
this was done a while ago. I did this. I did a small size as the one that you have, you know, it's 6 by 12. And it's crow thinking, and it's, you can't see from this image, unfortunately, but this works really well. What I was thinking about when I was doing this is I wanted to do a painting that worked really well from across the room. It's like, wow, look at that. It's the strong composition, strong lights and darks and big elements and all that stuff. So it works great from across the room, but when you get up really close, and you can't really see here, that around his head, there are these little swirls. So the crow is actually thinking. And so you're rewarded for, the photo isn't high resolution enough to be able to.
Well, you can see a little bit up here. This is what
Yeah.
she's talking about, these little things. They show up.
Yeah. But that was kind of the point, was to, you're rewarded for getting intimate with the painting.
A reward. I like rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hang on a second. I want to go back to this one a little bit. You do, I heard you mention one day in the gallery specifically, you do crows and not necessarily ravens because you like crows better.
I just see crows. I mean, I have access to crows and I don't have access to ravens, but the very first little bird painting I think I did was a raven that I just got from a picture on the internet, because I was doing it sort of as an exercise. I was trying to do an abstract piece. I didn't know how to do an abstract piece, but a friend of mine, an abstract painter, said, start with something you know, and then abstract it from there. So I found a picture of a raven. I did the raven, and then I went, oh yeah, it's supposed to be abstract. So I made the background abstract. I didn't want to mess up the raven because it was a nice painting. So anyway,
Magpie.
so there you go. Magpie. Miriam, when we were in Greece, you remember ever seeing magpies? Yeah. We when I lived on the Peloponnese in 79 and 78, 79, the beginning of 80, and every once in a while you'd see a Eurasian magpie. These are different. The magpies in this country, which are on the West Coast, have yellow bills. The Eurasian ones have black bills. This is a Eurasian magpie. And I just love them. I mean, it looks like a bird that was designed by a graphic designer, you know, the whites and the darks, you know, and then that little fabulous little suggestion, little pearlescent, iridescent bit on the wing. It's just so beautiful. A long tail. I mean, it's just really, really a well-designed bird. So I wanted to paint one, and I found this. This is a royalty-free image I got on Wikipedia, I think. I researched it. They eat acorns, so I threw acorns in, but I found this, that there's this superstition about them that I just thought was so weird, and I'll read it. The English superstition has it that a single magpie should be addressed with an appropriate salutation in order to ward off the bad luck it may bring. A greeting might take the form of saying, good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's Mrs. Magpie and all the little magpies? And I thought, what? Is that real? And so I called up Miriam, I called up Anne in England. And I said, is this real? I said, I've never heard anything like this. That's crazy. And she said, oh yes, it's real. I have a midwife friend named Betty, and Betty comes over, and we're sitting out in the little garden, and we're having a little tea. And if a magpie flies up, only one, she'll go, you know, when she looks around and she doesn't see another one, she'll say, hello, Mr. Magpie. How's Mrs. Magpie? You know, she'll do this whole thing. But if she sees two, she'll go, oh, you're fine. Drink your tea. You're okay. It's so funny. So it's a real thing.
Wow.
I had it checked out. Anyway, and so when I did this, so go back to that one. When I really wanted to put that text in, originally I was going to put the text, I was going to write it in, but I wasn't happy with my handwriting. And so I wound up putting it in I printed it on pieces of paper and cut it up, and I put it in all these different fonts to make it look like a ransom note, because that's what superstition is. You do this thing or there's going to be a problem. Okay, you pay the money or you're never going to see your kid again. You know, so you say the little thing to the magpie or that you're going to get bad luck. So that's why I chose to do that. I love this painting. I'm really super pleased with that thing. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's great. And you were talking about kingbirds, but are kingbirds the same as kingfishers?
No, 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 not at all.
Okay.
A kingbird is in the flycatcher family. Right. And fishers are not. But kingbirds, this bird is about a size of maybe a little smaller than a robin, but a pretty big bird for a flycatcher family bird. A lot of the flycatchers are little tiny little things. But it's recognized from a distance because that white bar across its tail, and it's very white on the belly and dark black on the back. And if you are lucky enough, it will put its head down, and it has a red mark right at the top of the head. You almost never see that. But I took this picture in Frederick, in Baker Park, and you can actually see the red thing. I felt very, very lucky to be able to get that. So this is called kingbird self-aware, because there's the little, I put the little red dot up there, because he knows who he is. He knows he's a kingbird. He has the mark, and he's the guy. Kingbirds also have a very interesting flying thing that they do. They hover, which is very weird to see a large bird hover like this. You think of hummingbirds hovering, but not like this. I've seen them hover over the creek like this. And that white tail, that bar on the tail hovering like this, it's like, okay, that's something you don't see often. So that's what that big swoosh is that's echoing that white bar going like this.
Nice.
So that's what, yeah.
There's your hair.
And that's the, oh my God, when I was with Anne, that's the yellow crowned night heron that I saw with her the first time and almost fell over. I took this picture, the picture that the source for this in Carroll Creek, like a block from where I live. They're beautiful, beautiful birds. We only had black crowned night herons in Frederick for many years. And then as of a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we started seeing yellow crowns, and then it's pretty common. You'll see them. I'll see a yellow crown, 10 times a year now. They're not that rare. But the big red dot is to echo the red eye of the bird, and the stripes echo the stripes on the head. So that's what that's about. It's a grackle in the sycamore. So grackle in the sycamore, have you ever looked at the sky, a blue, blue, blue sky, and it's so blue it almost makes your eyes hurt? I love the combination of that blue sky that almost makes your eyes hurt and the really delicate grays, colored grays in the branches against that. You have this really bold thing going on, and then this delicate little, there's greens, and they're delicate little greens and browns and grays and purples and a little bit of orange, and there's all of this stuff going on in there. But you have to get your face like really close to it to be able to see all that stuff. But I really love that contrast, the strong and the delicate. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on there. And the spectrum grackle. I shot this in a little tributary of the creek. It's actually the little creek that goes right in front of the high school is where this guy was. And it wasn't raining. It looks like it's raining here, but he had just flapped his feathers. He was bathing, and so there was, looked like there was drops going all over him. And the grackles normally are they look like black birds. They don't really look like much until they get in the sunshine, and then they have this fabulous iridescence that's just knock your eyes out. So the combination of the iridescence in the grackle and what it was doing to the creek bed underneath them, just like this glowing, green and orange and blue, and it's just wonderful stuff going on. I was really wowed by that. And so this is called spectrum grackle, and instead of doing the regular spectrum, the red, orange, yellow, the things that you always see, like the colors in a rainbow, this is adjusted a little bit to be the colors that are really reflected on the bird itself. It's like pink and purple and baby blue and royal blue and that, so that's adjusted. And also, if you go to the gallery and see this thing on a white wall, when this thing hangs on a white wall, those little colored bars are painted on the front surface of the painting, but also on the top of the painting. So when the light comes from the top, it throws a gentle little color onto the wall itself. And so it'll be a little yellow glow and a little pink glow and it's a really interesting effect that I went for. And fortunately it does kind of work. Kind of.
Actually, I think between all of these blackbirds, I mean, you do paint a lot of blackbirds, whether they're, you know, crows or grackles or whatever. And most people look at a blackbird and say, oh, well, it's black. And so I think what's interesting is that how you're showing that blackbirds are not black. They're, you know, there's so many different colors in a crow or in a grackle, or, you know, just to see how many different colors there are is really amazing.
Yeah, this is another of one of Lisa Haymaker's crows. You know, it's a fish crow, and if you put your face up to this, you're going to see a lot of colors. Every color is in the rainbow is on this bird. Mm. There's a lot of stuff, but this has it's the crow itself, but then the little ribbon there is to signify its relationship to a human, to Lisa specifically. I just think it's so interesting that some people are able to have relationships, real relationships with these wild animals. Mm-hmm. I think it's very cool. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. Yeah. Oh, the little catbird, which just sold, by the way. The little catbird just sold. Yay! And I see catbirds in my backyard all the time, and they're just great. I just love their personality. They just sort of seem like the world is their oyster. You know, they got it going here. You know, hey, I own your yard. You with the coffee. Get back inside. But this was I wanted this called Catbird in Springtime, and I really wanted to kind of echo what springtime is like around here. And that's we're by the Appalachian Mountains, excuse me. So that's what that green is. And I think of the Appalachians in the springtime and that wonderful pink of the mountain laurel. Oh, it's just so fabulous. And so that's what all that pink is about. And the little dots around the bird is the bird's energy. I figured out after I did it. And there's the cardinal above it all, because cardinals, you know, the religious cardinals are, you know, way up in the ranks, and that's the hoi polloi below them, or as Miriam knows, as the ipoli, which is how you pronounce it in Greek. But the little cross was given to me. I was standing in the doorway at NOMA Gallery, and it was in the street day, the big festival day in September a couple of years ago. And it was at the end of the festival. There were the street people were coming in, the street sweepers, you know, were coming up and sweeping, and they're cleaning everything up. And someone came up to me and they said, "Hold out your hand," and I did. And they put this little crucifix in my hand. And it's like, "I just found this over here. You want it?" I said, "Sure." I'm a painting sometime. So that's what I did. And my mother, God bless her, Lord love her, has said for years, "I love cardinals. Every time I see one, I have a religious experience." So there you go. So this was a commission. This is a bird I have seen in person. They have Rosetta Spoonbills at the National Zoo. And I've actually seen him and I think photographed him before, but not a photograph as good as this. So I got this from an image service. So this was a commission, and originally the painting in the upper left had a shell, a beautiful shell and silver purse that was hung in it. That was hung like hanging in front of it like this. And that's the way it was designed, but the client decided that she didn't like that. And so she took it off and she framed it. So it's not actually, there's a little more space up at the top than originally intended, but that's what the client wanted. This was really interesting to paint because you can't really see it from here, but up close, that head has so many colors in it. Oh my God. And I never realized, I mean, green and purple and ochre and you know, the eye is red and the beige. I mean, there's just so many colors in there. Blue, it's crazy. So it's really, that's kind of a fun thing about painting some of these birds, especially the exotic ones, is that there's so much unexpected stuff, you know. Anyway.
All right. If you hear a meow, it's probably my cat who's meow. Anyway, go ahead. Yes.
So here's the BlueFooted Boot, which is another commission. I got this from an image service. The original background of this, he was standing on like gray clay ground with a lot of hay on it. It was not very pretty. So the beach in the background is actually Assateague Island. And I stuck a blue moon in the corner of it because I think of boobies as being so rare. Like not very, I don't know if, there are very few people I know who've actually seen one, only the people who've actually been to the Galapagos Islands. Okay, as Linda Van Hart has seen one because she's been. But they're really rare. And so I put a blue moon up there, which is, you know, a symbol of rarity. And it needed something else. So I put the little fish at its feet. I found a photograph of fish that were just at the right angle. And I photoshopped all this stuff together. And then I painted it, you know, and adjusted everything just right. It takes a lot of work in Photoshop to get everything just right, looking convincing, like it's something that really happened, you know, and not something that's just sort of pieced together. So it's a lot of work before the brush ever gets wet, you know, but it's worth it, I think.
Nice.
And the shoebill, this is an African bird. I've never seen one. I think the closest one is in the zoo in Florida or something. They're not very many in this country. But these are great big tall birds. And the client, again, wanted the bird, you know, like facing you, like, you know, head on like that. And I pushed back the background a lot from the source photo because it was almost the same value as the bird itself, and so it wasn't a very interesting looking picture. So I really upped the drama in this one, you know, and so with that stare and the dark background, you know, it really has a lot more passion to it than the original image.
Yeah, that's an intimidating stare, isn't it?
It is an intimidating stare. And up close, I love the eyes up close. If you can see the actual show, zooming up, you're not going to be able to tell, but if you actually see the painting, take a really close look at those eyes. There's a lot going on there, a lot of beautiful color in those eyes. I always do the eyes first, by the way, whenever in all of these paintings. It's a thing. I don't know what it is. It's, I guess that's the thing that engages people most, you know. It's another living creature and you look it in the eye. So I think I do that. And if the eyes are good, everything else hangs on that, you know, the values, the lights, the darks, everything else has to mesh with what I've done with the eyes.
Interesting, because I think I said when I do my sculptures, the eyes are some of the last things that I do, and it's not really it doesn't have personality until I finish the eyes. So that's interesting that you start with them. And then there's the snowy owl.
And this was the snowy owl for survival. Snowy owls were seen on Assateague Island a few years ago, which is really far south for something that just crazy. And the people in the Maryland birding site were just going, wah, you know, crazy that they're a bit down, and people kind of had to watch it because it was, you know, you didn't want to disturb them too much. Anyway, why I did research, and why they came this far down is because on years when the lemming population is low, lemmings are their main source of food. When there's not many lemmings, they have to find food elsewhere, and so they have to sometimes be far from their Arctic and tundra homes. And so that's what the antique compass is for, is just finding your way to survive, finding your way to someplace else. And this one, I found this image on, hold on a second, I found this image on the internet, the owl, and I loved it so much. I just started painting, and then it occurred to me, oh my God, I should probably get permission. And so I tracked this down, and the photographer, he's a Canadian guy, and I showed him the picture, and I said, do you mind if I paint a painting of this? Would you charge me for it, or do I just need to credit you as the photographer, or what? And a little time passed, and then he wrote back to me and he said, you really should have asked me before you started, Caroline, because I busted. Anyway, so
Caroline, you froze a little bit during that story after he said you really should have, mentioned it before you started painting. So I'm not sure quite what you said. Uh-oh.
I
Yeah.
was busted, and I said right, and I was wrong to do it, and I'm really sorry, but I would happily pay you for using this photograph. How much is it? So we negotiated a fee, and then after I paid, you need help promoting the image, promoting the painting, I'll be happy to do that. So he was really great,
Oh, nice.
after he got paid, but that's fine.
Awesome.
Anyway. Yeah.
And a starling.
And this is from a photo I took this is the starling in an apple tree, Abundance. And this is a photograph that I took myself in my block, actually in front of the elementary school that I live right next to. And it's called Abundance because there are a lot of starlings. It's a bird. If you see one, turn around, there's going to be 20 behind you, And end of the apples. It was the end of the summer, and the apples were full and ripe and ready for picket, So that's the whole abundance thing. So abundance is good and bad, It's abundant. There's plenty of food, but it's also with starlings. It's kind of a bad thing because a lot of other bird species have suffered because there's so many. And why there are starlings in this country, it's a European starling, is because there was a group of people in New York who decided the brilliant idea that there should be some of every species of bird mentioned in Shakespeare's works in New York. And so they brought a few starlings over. There's only one mention in all of the works of Shakespeare of a starling, one mention. Look what happened. They came to this country and they really decimated other bird population. It's been kind of a problem. I like starlings. They have a great little sound. They sound kind of like R2-D2. If you pay attention, all kinds of great little sounds. But that's what. So the bird actually is named William. The bird in this picture is named William after William Shakespeare.
Yes. Right. I think that's the end. So let's talk about the crackle in the creek. Grackle in the creek.
The grackle in the creek with pebbles, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, but it's a grackle in the creek with pebbles. Anyway. Again, this is a grackle that I photographed in the creek, and it's just that head was just like crazy iridescent, and I loved it that he was in such shallow water and all the beautiful colors of the little pebbles, the green and pink and white and blue and all kinds of stuff going on there. And I painted this, and it's actually, the ground that it's on is not a white ground like most of the paintings are on. It's actually a gold acrylic ground underneath it, and so in areas where it's very thinly painted, it shines through. It almost looks like it's painted on metal, almost like it's copper or something. And I painted, and I really liked it, except it didn't seem there was a good balance to me. And so I took my pad of paper and a pencil, and I just drew the painting, and then I drew 3 little circles on top of it, and I went, that's it. It needs pebbles. So I went to the creek and I pulled out some pebbles of different colors and I put them on top, and that's perfect. It just needed. Yeah. Sometimes I do that. I do a little connection with reality. It's the pebbles in the creek, but then I have the real stuff on top. I've done things before with birds on branches, and there are actual branches sticking out of the tops of paintings, things like that. Anyway.
Yeah, every few days I like to have a connection with reality too. So I think we're at the end.
Virginia.
Sorry. I think we're at the end of the slideshow, so I'm going to stop sharing, which means that we can open it up, and I'm going to put the website of the gallery in, and we can open it up.
I'm going to ask a question.
Excellent. Go for it. Who's going to ask her a question?
Hi, I'll ask a question first to Carolyn.
Yeah.
Carolyn, some of those pictures are so beautiful. And then, do you ever do digital prints?
No, I don't do digital prints. I've thought about that, and people have asked me before, but I just think the originals are just so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And something digital, you can just never really quite get it. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But then some of those ones you said you sold already.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh no, how can I get a picture of that?
Well,
If it's already
I have repainted some things, you know, some things that I will paint again. There was a goldfinch that I think I've done 3 times. It was one of my really early ones, you know, and it was sold, you know, someone, oh, I wish I was gonna buy that. So I'll paint it again. I said, okay, then someone else wanted, I paint it again, you know.
Okay.
So I do, you know, I do requests of special things, and sometimes, you know, I can do it and adjust it to something that's, you know, more you, if
Okay.
you want. So just
Okay,
think about
cool.
that, Laura.
Okay, thank you. So I know there's always a possibility of getting a picture.
There's always that possibility.
You can always have a Caroline original. I mean, really, come on, she'll do it. She'll do it for you.
I'll do it.
Any other questions?
Oh, actually, I have one more question. What material do you paint with?
Oh, these are almost all oils. The background on the catbird, the little one with that's pink and green in the background, that's acrylic in the background, and the gold in this is acrylic, but everything else is oil. I seldom do acrylic just because painting in acrylic and painting in oils is just 2 totally different mindsets. You know, acrylics dry within seconds, and oils you can push around and blend and things. And so that's how I'm used to working. That's how I like to work. And so that's what I really stick with.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have another question. I have one more question, Carolyn.
Yeah.
I know you said I know you said you draw birds now because they're more accessible. But my question to you is, what do you enjoy more, the landscapes, seascapes, or birds?
Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've done a landscape, and landscapes generally are more forgiving because birds look a very specific way, and if you do them wrong, it's kind of obvious. But landscape, you know, I mean, a rock can be any shape. You know, so if it's not exactly like what you're painting, it's, you know, but with landscapes, you really try and capture texture and light, really. Basic shapes of, you know, it's a valley, you know, it's mountains, whatever, but it's really capturing kind of the character of a place. So it's kind of a different way of thinking. But I haven't really done a landscape in a long time. But anyway, there was one I did. Gosh, was it last summer? Last summer, I guess. And it was a great big, and it was a commission, or else I wouldn't have done it. But it was a great, huge commission. The one I did for Shannon Moore. Remember the Big Creek one that some people I know Patrice remembers it. And it's of Carroll Creek, that's just a couple blocks from my house. There's this beautiful place, and it was the perfect July day, and the air just looked green. It was, I mean, everything was so green. It was just the middle of summer, and it was just a perfect day, and the light glinting off the water, and the linden tree, you know, with all the leaves out and everything. It was just so pretty, and that's what she wanted. And so I did a great big painting. It's about maybe 48 inches wide, and it hangs in her bedroom wall. And so she wakes up to the perfect summer morning. So that's it. The painting that I have in my bedroom, I have a great huge painting, like it's like 50 inches across, of my favorite beach in Greece. It's Agiosostis on the island of Seraphos. And that's what I look at every night before I go to sleep. It's what I look at first thing every morning. It's this, I have a little tiny bedroom, and it just takes up the whole wall. And it's great, you know, starts the day off right.
That's cool. Any other questions?
Anyone? Miriam, your lips are moving, and yet I can't hear you.
I was unmuted. I don't have a question, Caroline. I'm always in awe of your paintings because they are so detailed and they're so beautiful, and they just jump at you, and I love them. And so thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And
Oh, sure.
you need to come up and to the Adirondack and study the birds here. We would love that.
Absolutely.
I would love that. I would love that. Hi, Tom.
And,
I would love that. It's been a long time since I've been up. I'd love to come and
I
see you
know.
guys.
So thank you so much. And then
Okay.
we're gonna sign off.
All right.
We'll talk to you
Alright.
later.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hi, Phyllis. It's Phyllis's nose.
Phyllis is muted too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Patrice.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
You. Good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think that was a
We can go.
wonderful talk. Yeah, I think that was a wonderful
thank you.
talk. I just want
It
to
was.
thank
You
you.
took all the good questions, Virginia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so
No,
sorry.
that's okay.
No, you asked really good questions, and you answered a lot of you had me explain a lot of things that I would have explained anyway, except it's better if it's not me just going wah 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 wah.
Good. Well, I mean, it was really, I love your work. And I just wanted to say before we end real quickly that next month is going to be Karen Birch, who disappeared. She was hiding here earlier, but now she's disappeared. And it's going to be an amazing show of her embroidered textile art. So I urge people, if they're in the area, to come see that show. And there will be another, Jim Roberts just decided to enter. There will be another artist talk in another month. So, but Caroline, thank you. This was great. And I really hope that your show does super well this month, the rest of this month.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank
I'll
you.
bring this. I'll bring the crow in tomorrow, Friday, if anyone's interested in going and looking at it up close and personal, what I've done. It's pretty near completion, but I know I'm going to go back, and there's always adjustments to do at the end. So anyway,
Cool.
all right.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
All
Thanks,
right,
Caroline.
later.